Welcome to Late Night Riders. On this episode, we bring you Best of Part 2. We selected the best questions from episodes 26 through 44. So enjoy! In this segment, we talk with Nicole McCaig. She is an equine realtor, and she answers the question, what should equestrians look for when purchasing a new farm?
Properties are moving in your area or your school district, or I can say things are a little bit slower in your area. In general, it is a niche market. It's a very small percentage of the buyers. So we usually try to prep our sellers for a year. And granted, there are markets that sell a lot faster than that, but to find that right buyer that appreciates all the amenities you have, it does sometimes take a year, and sometimes, it will take longer for a highly specialized property. But in general, we usually say to prep for 9 to 12 months.
Okay. And then in the either buying or selling, then too, when you tell someone that looking for maybe that property, it's always, I hear location. So what would you tell someone if they're looking for something that they'd like to get maybe sooner and then maybe down the road sell it? Where is a good place to look? I mean, what are you looking for? It depends, I suppose, like trails or what then?
Yeah, it depends too. Like, if someone's planning on running a business there, is there a market for their type of riding in that area? If they want to have boarders, is there a demand? So really, it depends on what they're looking for. If it's someone who just wants to if it's someone and their horses and they don't have any other factors involved in it, it's, does that property meet their needs right now? Are you getting it for what you would consider to be a good investment in the time period that you're going to sell it in? If it's a family and they're looking at something, they're going to want to look at the area. They're going to want to look at the school districts they're in. They're going to want to look at the activities for their families and their children, and is it a decent commute to work? So there's so many factors to consider.
On this segment, we talk with Andrea Wise from Horse Glam. You may not know, but she used to be a lawyer, and she answers the question, what should you seek legal counsel for when starting a business?
I mean, it's amazing to hear how people get started because it's
I love startups. In fact, like, one of the things I love about Horse Glam is all the startups that I work with. And they'll actually, a lot of brands have like called me and we will talk for like 3 hours about, because I come with like a different background. I have the creative background. I've done the pony glam thing, so I know how it works. But I'm also an attorney, so I have like that other background. And so it's almost like I have this 2-hour consulting session with them about everything from labels or trademarking or just negotiating their vendor contracts out. So it is a lot of fun. So I love working with them. But I would say that I guess my biggest tip would be to not be afraid of asking people for advice, because it's amazing like how many contacts that you have that you don't know of that like know someone in this industry that can help you get cheaper prices for this, or they know like someone who has an inn in this like huge tack store that can give you your first break or something. So I wouldn't be afraid to ask for help, because so many of us are such great resources.
Can I just ask you too, with your background of being an attorney and being in business, with people who don't have that background, is there anything that you would suggest that they would do or seek out an attorney's help, do you feel, on certain places? Or, can a person just start and go, do you feel? Or do you have any feelings about that, being that you have that background?
I would eventually make my company into an LLC, and you don't necessarily need an attorney for that, but it would be good to consult one. A lot of that you can do yourself, and I think people are surprised to hear that. Like, for me to form an LLC, it takes like under an hour. So you want to be aware of that, because you don't want to get charged a lot to do that by an attorney, because it really doesn't take that much time. But I would just be really careful about like spreading, like sharing my ideas
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
people, and
Mm-hmm.
over email and stuff. I would
Mm-hmm.
try to get non-disclosure agreements because some people have really great
Yes.
ideas, and
Yes.
Yes.
all it takes is for
Good
someone else
advice.
to hear it.
On this segment, we talk with Carly from Cavalli Club. She talks about how she curates the products that go into her subscription boxes.
Like, I want to try every single one of them. So I started searching around for a subscription box that would show me cool products. It would introduce me to new things. It was like definitely like I won't say high end subscription box, but I didn't want things that I already had. That sounds, but yeah, I was looking around for a subscription box that would introduce me to new products. I was basically looking for a discovery box, and I couldn't find it. And I was like, well, surely there are other people like Carly that want this type of box. So let me just start it myself and see how it goes. So yeah, that's how it started.
And you just pick out your own, the things that you feel that you choose, and how do you look at, how do you find all these different things then? Is it just your research or your friends, or what helps you figure that out?
Yeah, so there are 3 different layers to the curation. I think in the very beginning, before I really had like a diverse membership, it was really me sort of trialing products that I discovered online, like D2C brands, and also, the bigger brands to sort of like bring their products into the box. Now I have a membership that they give me amazing recommendations. They say, I saw this product, I want to try it. So there's 3 layers. The first is seasonal essentials. I look for brands that deliver something premium that would work well for summer or work well for fall or whatever. The second is I look for brands that are cultivating a really engaged community. Like, they don't have to necessarily be big brands, but they are just crushing it. People love them. They have lots of brand advocates. So I want to bring in them. And then the final phase is looking for something really niche, really novel, really innovative.
On this segment, we talk with Michael from Rider Remedy. He tells us about the common problems he sees in the equestrian world and how to fix that through exercise.
I kind of would like to help shift the culture of the horse riding community of what glimpse I've gotten, which is you spend all this time and money into doing things for your horse and taking care of your horse, and it's got 25 specialists for it. And then you don't leave any time or make any time for yourself to take care of yourself out of the saddle. And you kind of walk around with a badge of honor of being, hurt, and you don't have time to take care of this. So first of all, I think it's so important for anybody to just do something for themselves out of the saddle. Any athlete and dressage riders, jumpers, whatever it is you do in the equestrian world, to do something. So I'd kind of like to make a shift of really helping people focus on make time for yourself, because your horse will benefit from it greatly. And also you'll have longevity in the sport as well, because you'll be able to take care of your own body.
Have you ever wondered what it takes to be in the mounted patrol? In this segment, we talk with Lieutenant Hollingsworth about his equine training and experiences.
There were 9 or 10 of us going through training, and none of us had horse experience. And
my goodness.
It was all bareback. So
my goodness.
our training before we got on the horse was
Crazy.
he held up a set of reins connected to a halter and said, okay, this is, if you pull this way, the horse is going to go left. If you pull this way, it's going to go right. And if you pull back, he's gonna kind of stop.
Sure.
So, and that was all we. And,
that's all you knew.
And squeeze him to make him go faster.
You have got to be kidding me. That is crazy. You are
So-
one brave person.
Yeah. So the first 3 days it was all bareback. And we first just started
goodness.
walking around, and rookie is new, and so you take somebody who's not ridden a horse before and put him on a new young horse that's a little bit anxious, and so as you start to get a little uncomfortable, not knowing what you're doing, you're gonna try and hold on. What are we used to holding on with? You hold on with your hands.
Yeah.
So you start
Pulling.
pulling with the reins. Well, then Rookie didn't like that because I'm pulling on his mouth. Now I know that I'm pulling on his mouth, but I'm just trying to stay on top. And so then when that doesn't work, then you squeeze your legs, and when you squeeze your legs, you're telling the horse to move forward, and you're telling him to go 15 different directions at a time. And
Oh my gosh.
so at one point, Rookie just stood up and said, "I'm done with you," and I slid off the back, and we got back on and tried again.
So a few discussions together, the two of you.
We did.
Yeah.
On this segment, we talk with the owner of West 20. She tells us about how a saddle should be properly fitted to your horse.
When we talk with people over the phone and we don't have them in our presence, one of the things that we like to do is kind of give them a visualization exercise so they can understand the concepts that we use. So I'm going to do that with you. Okay. So if you could kind of recognize or visualize an arc in your mind, just kind of a slight arc, that kind of represents the top line of the horse. So if you were to look at your horse in profile, you'd notice that your horse has a curve to his top line. Your horse has a spine. He's got shape to his back. There's really no such thing as a flat horse from front to back. So unfortunately, that doesn't correlate with the majority of saddles made in this country. 90% of those saddle trees are very, very flat. So if you look at your horse in profile and you see that arc in your mind, now imagine laying a 2x4 across that horse's back, or a 2x6, or a 2x8. Or a sheet of plywood for that matter. It makes no difference. If you're putting a flat surface on a horse, there's no way to attach that and to have good contact without bridging.
On this segment, Heather Christo talks to us about how to battle nerves before a show.
You're so young, but you've done this for so long. So those, the competition, you're probably so used to it. Is there anything that you would want to tell anybody about, the competition and the jitters that you get, or the, staying focused and how to stay, some little tips on staying focused, that type of thing? You're such a great writer. It's but other people want to learn from you too,
Well, I have to say that I still do get nervous. I think that if you don't get nervous, then you don't want it enough. I do get nervous sometimes walking the courses. Occasionally, I'll even put earphones in and just put music on that I like to listen to sort of keep me calm. Sometimes what I get nervous about is hearing how other people want to do the course with their own horse. And then I kind of doubt myself for a moment and say, should I be doing what they're doing? Right. I think being able to sort of stay within my own realm with my headset, helps me to be able to analyze the course more properly for myself, and not be swayed by maybe what other people want to do with their horses. I have to just be confident in the fact that I know my horse, and I'm going to try to do what's right for him.
On this segment, we talk with Utsi about some tools that you can use for training. So how do you go about telling someone for the first time, this is how your posture should be, or this is how you're affecting your horse? What do you do when you have a client come to you in that first couple sessions of training?
One of my favorite things, Gretchen, to do is take photographs. So, and this is something that Mary Wellness, it's one of her tools, and it's a really great tool. And I'll just look at the person, I'm like, okay, put yourself in riding position, like get ready to ride. And I'll take a photograph of them. And generally their bum is out behind them, their foot's out in front of them. They're not responsible for their own body weight. And then I'll do an alignment. So I'll usually start with the pelvis, teach them where their seat bones are, teach them about how their inner thigh is supposed to be on the saddle, position their lower leg, and then position their upper body, and just kind of put some resistances on them so they know what muscles they need to stabilize.
And finally, one of the best canter banters of part 2. Bethany Lee tells us some spooky stories.
I was breaking down a course to just have them jump poles on the ground, but there were still standards on the sides because I was still breaking down the course. And so it was a diagonal line with a pole and 2 standards, and then it ended up just being a single, but I still had 2 standards at the other end of the ring where the end of the line should be. And she fully jumped over an imaginary jump. And so it was a 3-6 vertical. And obviously Raina was not expecting that. And she's on this large pony, and she's already a tall kid. But she was like so panicked, and the horse had jumped and just like halted because I think she was in shock too. And she's like on her neck sliding up, and she's like, Bethany, help. And she didn't realize that she was like, like inches from the ground. So I'm like, just get off. Like,
touch the ground.
So that's like that's normally what goes on.
This podcast is brought to you by Ramm Horse Fencing and Stalls, the one-stop shop for your horse farm. Ramm is family-owned and operated and has been in business for over 30 years. We welcome you to call in and speak with an expert about your next project today at 866-653-8984. Again, that's 866-653-8984.